Yoga is a Japanese art term which can be translated as Western painting. It refers to works like these from the end of the 19th and early 20th centuries, when Japanese artists were inspired by the art style that was popular in the West. And whereas Japanese artists were inspired by Western art, the reverse was also true. The influence of Japanese art on Western art is known as Japanism. Here you can see how Vincent van Gogh copied two works by the Japanese artist Hiroshige. Japanese and Western art had developed separately since 1600. Until about 1860, Japan had an isolationist foreign policy, meaning that there were basically almost no trade and relations between Japan and the outside world. And so when Japan started interacting with the rest of the world again, there was a lot of inspiration from foreign art styles. Many Japanese artists favored the more traditional Japanese style, also known as Nihonga, of which you can see some examples here. But then there were also some who derived inspiration from the Western themes and techniques, which is known as the Yoga style, which has a slightly different spelling than the popular yoga exercises for our body and brain. In fact, both terms are basically unrelated. One of the leading artists in the yoga style was Kuroda Seiki. Here are some of his early works, which are almost indistinguishable from Western art. Perhaps not surprisingly, Seiki did not get his art education in Japan. Instead, he studied for some time in Paris. He would eventually return to Japan, where he would combine the Western techniques and styles with the artistic themes that were popular in Japan. These examples show a beautiful mix of influences. And with the opening of Japan's borders, there were also some art schools in Japan that actively invited European painters to teach their techniques to Japanese aspiring artists. Here are some works from the Japanese artist Asai Che. As you can see, they are hard to distinguish from those of a Western artist. Now, in my personal opinion, these particular works are not that remarkable, and we can just as easily look at better works in this style by artists like Jean-François Millet and Jean-Baptiste Camille Corot. But where it gets really interesting is when the Western and Japanese art styles and themes are combined, like we saw earlier in the art of Kuroda Seiki. But it is also visible in the art of Arada Naojiro. This is one of his works, known as Kannon Riding a Dragon. It is created using oil paint following the Western techniques, but it shows very much a Japanese or Asian theme. It shows Guanyin, also known in Japanese as Kannon or Kanzeon, dressed in a white robe, standing on top of a dragon, holding a willow branch in one hand and a water jar in the other. Guanyin is a popular motherly figure, basically a person on her path to Buddhahood, also known as Bodhisattva. Guanyin is strongly associated with compassion and works for the good of all people in the world. And in this painting, Kannon is calm and focused, riding the dragon in the middle of a storm. She seems in complete control, something that may serve as an inspiration for many people weathering the storms in their life. Yoga enjoyed some popularity in Japan between the late 1860s and the early decades of the 20th century, albeit with a lot of ups and downs, as the Japanese were not always so sure what to think of these Western influences, and it received the critique that it lacked originality. Let me know in the comments below what you think of the yoga style. In any case, it did result in some truly unique paintings, like this painting of one of the Japanese fairy tales called Urashima Taro. You can see how it differs completely from a more traditional Japanese depiction of a scene from this fairy tale. Well, I hope you enjoyed this introduction and explanation to the yoga art style. I am curious to know if you are a fan of some of the works and artists shown here. And if you have any favorite work that was not shown in this video, I would love to hear about it in the comment section down below. And if you are interested in learning a bit more about Japanese art, I've made an earlier video about Hokusai woodblock prints of Mount Fuji. Finally, if you want to help out the channel, just hit the thumbs up button if you enjoyed this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on new videos. Thanks for watching.